Thanks, Dan, for that wonderful, I would say, setup to what's going to come next. Dan is always a tough act to follow. I think the passion and the energy that he brings, and I would say rightly so, one thing that really inspires us, and I've been 2 years in CBA, is the customer obsession. And I think every word, every slide that Dan spoke about kind of gave that message loud and clear. Continuing with that passion, I think one thing I want to talk about is unstructured data. So a lot of use cases Dan spoke about is how we are mining the structured data to create more and more insights for our customers, bring them more value, because we don't think there's a limit to that. We really want to personalize to the maximum extent. What we also want to do in parallel, there's a whole host of unstructured data. I think we spoke, AT&T as well spoke about it. And this unstructured data, we don't want to leave it untapped, right? Because we don't want to have a loss of information, loss of insights for our customer. This is where our next partnership with H2O, which is Document.ai, is helping us leverage this. Okay, so CBA has been one of the strategic investors of H2O.ai, and we have been partnering with them on this product since almost, I would say, the infancy of this product. I think we all have in this room heard about OCR, ICR. Now, these are the technologies which helped us deal with data like images, PDFs, and convert all of that into machine-readable format. Then came ICR, which also helped us do maybe handwriting recognition. What Document.ai is all of that with much more added, I would say, power, the power of NLP, the power of really going deep into those details and coming out with more intelligent output. So if OCR, ICR created kind of a creature which helped the operations team become faster, so it had limbs, hands, and legs, what Doc.ai is doing is helping us do is give a brain to it, make it more intelligent, give muscles to hands and legs, and make it faster, better, more efficient. What you see is I'll not go into the details. It's like a complete pipeline of Document.ai, which is there, which starts from ingestion, and there's a brain inside where there's a lot of pre-processing happening, processing happening, and then we deploy the model and kind of we integrate into the systems that are there already in the bank. So let's look into some examples of what are the use cases that we're working on with this. This is the opportunity landscape at CBA. I think I don't mind repeating again, CBA is the largest bank in Australia. We have 60 million customers, and as Andrew mentioned, very high market share. With that kind of volume of data, imagine the documents, and banks are a regulated entity. I think we spoke about that. There are a lot of documents that we deal with. So if you look at the life cycle of a customer starting from right from customer onboarding, when a new customer comes in, and we have done here the application form that needs to be filled, to customer verification, the KYC documents, and in India we keep coming across the re-KYC process, every time going and refilling our Aadhaar card and so on. The credit assessment, taking a loan, again a very mammoth paper intensive process, and then account management. So once the customer is onboarded, there's need for address change, there's need for any other change. Again, that requires some kind of a paper, if not a paper, some kind of a data entry at some point of stage. There is a lot of documents, images that is getting collated, which is slowing our system, and what we realize is, which is also leading to loss of a lot of valuable information, which can actually help power a lot of great use cases that Dan spoke about. So, and if you also look about the non-customer landscape, right? So we have finance team. I think some of you here are from finance team. There are contracts, there are invoices, there's legal contracts, purchase orders. Again, a lot of documents that we are creating, but how are we making ourselves efficient in using it? This is where we are looking at how Doc.ai can help us. While I spoke about a lot of these use cases, what is key is what we are trying to do is a connected ecosystem. These are not standalone use cases. What we do in one, for example, credit assessment. Now this is a place where we will have a lot of documents like pay slips, a lot of documents like your bank statements, or property papers. What we are creating in terms of being able to read these instruments, we would want to use it elsewhere in the entire ecosystem. as well as the features that we are extracting from this use case. So going back to the same use case of credit assessment, imagine we are taking out information as simple as a pay slip. You can get to know who was the employer of the customer, since how many years has he been working with that, what is the address of the customer, what is the gross pay, what is the net pay, and so on and so forth. Now this information is super critical, not just for credit assessment, but also if we now need to do use cases like fraud, we need to do use cases like anti-money laundering. Right now they are related to more of the transaction data, but now what we are creating is an enriched feature data set which is going to add and make our use cases and models more and more sharper with the wider data that we are now privy to. So that's the power we are trying to create. It's a complete ecosystem of joined up use cases, feeding into each other, not just in techniques, not just in technologies, but also in features, also in insights that we're generating for our customer. After this, maybe I'll just quickly deep dive into one of the use cases. Just want to highlight, there is a session later in the day, industry session led by Ayush Agarwal. He is going to talk in detail about few use cases. I don't think I can do justice to all of that, and I'm not the technical person that Ayush is, so I'll leave it to him. But a quick overview of one of the use cases. I spoke about a lot of retail banking, taking a loan, KYC document. Let's talk about how can this help us in, say, a corporate banking case, right? Where we have fewer customers, but then the complexity is different, right? So just say there's a corporate which wants to take a loan against an asset. An asset could be a could be a ship, could be an aircraft, could be a huge building. Now they submit as a document which is like 70 pages to 180 pages of valuation report. Currently, traditionally there would be an analyst who would be going through the entire 180-page document, going through every page, culling out some important information and trying to make some sense and an analysis out of it. What we are trying to do is make Document AI do that and let analysts do more value-added task of adding a layer of judgment on top of it. So extracting the data. Now there are primarily two challenges. I'm talking about documents which are as huge as 180 pages. And then secondly, it's not a standard template, right? So in some cases, you will have the land area coming in the second page of the document. In some cases, the land area might come up in, say, 105th page of the document. So how can we create models which are not subjected to a templated output, but can really I would say, be template agnostic? It should be able to go and extract the features from the right place and add a layer of entity recognition. That yes, this is land area that this document is talking about. And again, labeling could differ. In some documents we have seen it's called land area. In some documents it's called lettable area. So our model has to be intelligent enough to not just go with the rules of the names, but actually adapt to the changing context and the changing words. So in this example, what we are creating is something which is template agnostic, which is faster. It needs to really run fast. So how do we break the model so that we make it more efficient? For example, first step that we do is we don't directly go into the recognition of the words and phrases. We break it to identify which are the relevant pages. Or a 180 page, we might just need 5 pages to cull out the insights and then process it for the relevant insights. So that's what, maybe I'll not go into further detail, but going back to the fact of connected ecosystem, what we are doing here now can be leveraged back at the bank for multiple other use cases. For example, we spoke about taking a home loan. There also we submit our property papers. What stops us from using this technique and this technology to now make the home loan process more STP and faster and better? And the insights that we are getting, so we're talking about coming out with insights of how is the private property rates trending in the past, what we can share back with our customer. So we are getting those insights which we can either build our models better or share back with our customer. Just 2 quick examples before I wrap up. So Dan, sorry for taking you as a use case here. So while we are trying to do a lot of machine reading and coming out with text, what we are also trying to do is comparing images. In this case, there are 2 images. We don't need to find out whether there's a D in this or whether there is a J in that. What we need to find out is, are those 2 images correct? In banking term, if customer signs a paper with us, can we compare and say that signature is authentic and it matches to our existing records? So this is what, again, we are trying to do through one of the H2O product. And I think the prediction is basically, it talks about whether the image that we have fed in matches with the original image. And it's just not that. If you imagine again a credit card application form that a customer has submitted, it can basically do 3 things. Find out whether the signature is there or not. If the signature is there, is it there in the right place? Is it outside the box, or it should be inside the box? And if it is there, is it fraudulent or is it right? So all of that can be done through the simple techniques that we're talking about. Think about check fraud, and again, the same technique can be used for that as well. So one technique, one method, but multiple use cases. The last one that Dan spoke about. Now this is personally something which is my favorite one. Now this is a use case where CBA has been world leader. Not something to be, I would say, it has both the sides to it, and if I explain, you'll understand why. We all know that when we are sending money to any of our peers, colleagues, anybody, there's something where there's something in the transaction, there's an open field where you can write details about the transactions, right? Like you can say, and you can try doing that, send 1,000 rupees to me and say, sending money to Nidhi for XYZ, and I'll get that, I'll get to see that transaction message, right? What we observed in CBA around a year and a half back was these transactions, the free text field, unfortunately in some cases were used by some of the pays in an inappropriate way. So they were using that to send messages to the recipient which were not appropriate. They could be abusive and they could be really stressful. And frankly, there's no option. So unlike like a WhatsApp or a phone where you can block somebody, you can't block somebody from sending you money back in, right? And you wouldn't want to. So this was quite a challenging situation. One of the first steps that at CBA we took was we created a profanity blocker. And how it worked was at the time of sending money, if I am sending money to somebody and I'm using some inappropriate word, is going to stop me and say that, please rephrase. And I think that worked well, but what we realized was it was not solving all the problem. They could be as simple and honest, I would say simple messages like, I love you, while sending a message to a recipient. It sounds harmless, right? So the blocker will never stop it. But what if that messages are sent every hour with a small transaction amount just to harass somebody? No blocker, no machine can stop that, right? And there could be things like, I'm coming at your door. There could be threatening messages which we realized that could have been possibly causing a lot of stress to our customers. So then we worked on a more comprehensive solution to that, and we kind of researched and we looked at some large machine learning LMM or LM models, and this is I'm talking about 1.5 years back before the ChatGPT obviously became a rave right now. We use LMM models from the market. They were pre-trained. We trained them on a data set. There were models which helped us identify toxicity at a narration level, emotions, and some other parameters. What we did was we overlaid with other context, because context is very important. What we were trying to do was not label one particular transaction narration as harassment. We are looking at a relationship which could be abusive between two individuals, right? So hence there was a lot of context, a lot of past patterns, a lot of frequency that had to be input into that model. And what came out of it was so now we are able to identify proactively, we run this model once every 2 weeks. We are able to identify customers who had a high risk of abuse. We have worked closely with our vulnerability team to kind of pass on those inputs. And this again explains how AI in itself cannot solve all the problems. We need to have humans in loop. We need to have a human touch. While a model can say this looks like an abuse case, the customer vulnerability team actually goes and tries to figure out, puts the lens of human in that and actually identifies whether this is actually a case or not and takes appropriate action. This is something which we are proud of and we really want to scale across the world. We've already published a paper which is out in the public domain talking about all the technicalities that is there. We're also working with H2O so that we can release this model externally, and any other bank, anywhere else would want to use it, and not just bank, any other sector wants to use it, can use it. So going back to Dan's point on responsible AI, we really feel responsible AI is all about, while we know it's about explainability, it's also about how we are responsible to our customers, to our community, to make it better and I would say safer for them. With this, I wrap up and thank you once again, and I hand it back.